Welcome guys to another video on my channel. My name is Draconio. As you can see here, I have a Monster Hunter tier list maker. I'm gonna rank these 5 Monster Hunter games because these are the ones I've played. I'm not gonna include their incomplete versions, so for example Monster Hunter Generations, I'm not gonna count them, only count Generations Ultimate. Same with Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter World. You can see why it's here, but I'm not gonna include it into the list because I think it's it is an incomplete game right now. So, and what I mean by that is there's no master rank unlike the other games. There's still new stuff coming out. For example, we know like Icarus is coming to the game. There's probably other arc-tempered monsters that they're gonna include and other events, and it's not quite fair to judge the game with the others. But I'm gonna talk about it quickly, what I think about the game. By the way, this tier list is completely subjective to my preferences and everything, so feel free to disagree with whatever I'm gonna rank it, or if you think my arguments for the ranking are kinda you like the game more. It is what it is. I'm just gonna rank them how I like them, and that's it. But to Monster Hunter Wilds, I think the game is really great, and I think from first of all how the world looks, if you look at it and everything, I would say it looks really nice. Probably the most beautiful looking Monster Hunter game, if you know what I mean. Like the monsters look really good. The whole surroundings and everything looks really nice. I like how the weapons are played, and the new mechanics they introduced. The new monsters are really cool. Can't complain really. Not that there are that many right now, I would say. Or it feels like there are not that many. Also, there are no Elder Dragons, surprisingly. Don't know if they're gonna change that, but I hope they will put some Elder Dragons or create a new one. Kind of sad that Arkveld isn't an Elder Dragon. I think it would have fit well as like the last species of him, but yeah, the game looks nice. Potential to be the best Monster Hunter game so far, so really cool. Also, I think like Icarus being introduced there after so many years is going to have a big impact if they're going to create him well and implement him well in this game. I think most people will remember this game as this game like Icarus came back and was really well, and I think that already will have people think of the game really highly. But yeah, that's my opinion about Monster Hunter Wilds. Again, really good game. Hope it gets even better. I kind of know it's gonna get even better, but now let's just start with the actual ranking of these 5 Monster Hunter games you're seeing here. At the bottom we have, and by the way, just because the game is at 5 doesn't mean it's bad, doesn't mean I hate it. I love all these games, but number 5 I'm going to have Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. So the reason why I have it the lowest is when I think of every, I would say, new mechanic that's in there. First of all, the Rampage quests I don't like. Actually, I found it really boring. It was a cool idea, and I'm glad they tried it, but it was at the end of the day really boring. And I didn't like it. That's one thing, and the whole Spirit Birds, I hope that's the name, where you have to collect them, get your buffs. Like, you couldn't have max HP until you collect all of them, or for your stamina and everything, and I thought that was a really horrible thing to do, because I mean, it kind of is okay, now you can, you know, go to different places, look around and everything, but if I want to, you know, how do you call it? What's the word? I'm not missing the right word for it right now, but not researching, but I think you guys know what I mean. If you look around, want to look around everywhere, and see the whole surroundings and everything, I would like to do this on my own and not because I have to collect some birds so I can actually fight and not die. I have max HP and everything. I wasn't a big fan of that. So these are two mechanics I didn't like about the game, which I think is the highest amount of mechanics I don't like in the Monster Hunter games, like if I have to compare. And that's one thing. I think the afflicted monsters, why they are good, I'm not saying that they were bad. I like the Risen Elder Dragons, so that's really a cool thing they did, but it's also nothing new, if you know what I mean, because Monster Hunter Ultimate had the Frenzy Virus, and it's basically the same thing. Like, just that it's not the same mechanic, but it kind of works similarly. Like, monsters get affected, you have to kind of fight and attack them to get out of their affected state, and then they get afflicted again, and so on. And if they attack you, they give you the blight, the same like frenzied state as well. Like that it passes on to you, and depending if you, and they have effects on you. And some monsters are evolving with the afflicted state, same as the frenzy state that created Apex monsters in Full Ultimate. They created the Risen monsters. So it's not a new thing they thought about. They changed it a little bit, and it worked. I'm not saying it's bad, but not quite original is kind of the issue here. So again, not saying that's a bad mechanic. I'm just gonna say it's nothing new. That's all I'm gonna say. But overall, still like the monsters. Like Primordial Razino was really cool. It was a really hard fight they introduced. I think that was the last monster they introduced new to the game. So Flaming Espina's also really cool. Magna Malo and Gosmaigon? Was it the name? Not the best in pronouncing monster names, so I wish I did more with him. That's one complaint of as well, because you basically have that one quest against him, I think, and that's it. Like, nothing special, no special upgraded quests about him. Like, he kind of came irrelevant afterwards. So that was kind of disappointing. But the end game is fine. I mean, same with for Ultimate, you have like your research quests, so you get higher levels. The monsters have more HP, potentially more damage and everything. So yeah. But Monster Rise, Sunbreak, fine. But here at number 5 and at number 4, and I was thinking about maybe sharing their spot, but I later decided to change that. Generations Ultimate here. Now the one thing I will say is Generations Ultimate is actually the game out of all of these. And I think it would even come to a point where this game is going to be included in it, but I played this game the least, actually. So this kind of affects as well how I'm doing the game, because with these games I played like, I would say, a lot of hours. In this one, in comparison, way less. Not because it was bad, but because I played it in a timing, I think, where we decided afterwards to be like, okay, let's complete Rise Sunbreak before Wilds comes out, and that's why we dropped the game. And also playing pre-Ultimate again with a friend, so yeah, that's why I didn't play this game as much. What I will say about Generations Ultimate, and I don't want to say it's a negative point, I just want to mention it. If you're new to the game, like you haven't played any Monster Hunter game, you want to start playing, I would not recommend you to play Generations Ultimate. Not because it's bad, but it's more so the fact that we have too many things in this game, where I would say it's not beginner friendly, if you know what I mean. For example, Greatsword. You have Guild style, you have Aerial style, Adept style, Alchemy style, and Verda style, I think. Those are 5 different ways how you can play the weapon, and with each style there are some attacks you gain, some attacks you lose, and together with all the hunter arts that exist, there are just a lot of things going on for one weapon, and every one of these 14 weapons has all these styles as well with other attacks and so on and so on. So a lot of things to remember, and I think for a beginner it would be best to start with Rudder Game, because this game doesn't have a training place like these future games have. These are all training places where you can test everything out, and these games don't. So this could be overwhelming for newer players, I would say, and that's like 4 different modes and you're like, okay, what do these things even do? Which one is better for which weapon? Some weapons are better with some styles, some weapons are worse with it. So yeah, that's what I'd say. It's a bit not beginner friendly, but at the same time it provides you so many different ways to play your favorite weapon. Like, let's just say you get bored of guild style, dual blades, try adept style, try striker style, whatever you want to do. You want to have more hunter art, striker style, you want to try Valor style, go do that. Like, different ways you can play the weapon, so that's a positive for the game here. What else? I also like, and this is one of the biggest factors why I like this game over Rise Sunbreak, are the deviants, which I can show you here. And what I like especially about is, if you see all these monsters, you're noticing some are like the classic favorite monsters here. Like, you see Rattlers, you see Raytheon, who are, they always get something. But here, Nagakuga got an deviant, Zinogre, Tigrex, the usual monsters But then you see here Redham Azuros. Azuros is usually just a small monster, like a huge monster, but a really easy one. Or same with Lagombi, and I think even like monsters like Cianatar and Hemitar were not like difficult monsters, and very easy at the beginning of the game, and even they got deviant forms, and I have to say they did deviant monsters really well. Except for him, he is the one outlier where I'll say delete him from him completely. Crystal Beard Urgan, just delete him. Put Lagiacrus in there, give him a deviant form. If we don't have like Abyssal Lagiacrus or Ivy Lagiacrus in the game, delete this guy for the Lagiacrus. I think I can speak for everyone when I say this. Remove Crystal Beard Urgan from the deviants. But besides that, like, I think they did each deviant really well. Of course, there's some annoying monsters like him with the control swappings, or Deadeye Garuga being just annoying, or this guy flying and not falling from the air if you didn't destroy his wings. Also, annoying thing, but overall I think they looked really cool. They made it really well. They faded for really cool flagships. Also, first time ever that we had like 4 flagships. Like, for Monster Generations, there are normal versions. These guys were all the flagship monsters, which I found really cool. And then later here we have Wild Strikes, who got introduced into this game as well. And then also Bloodbath Diablos, one of the sickest monsters ever, one of my favorites. Like, the game is crazy, the way they made his phase 2. Like, the first you think like, okay, some new things, like he uses his roar to stun you and attack you, and makes use of his really, loud roar that usually, if you don't have high earplugs, you get it stunned at, and using that to attack people is really cool and a good thing they made. But that first time you think like, okay, he's good, but nothing crazy. All of a sudden the music changes, all of a sudden his whole body is glowing kind of red, like his veins, and all of a sudden he jumps around everywhere exploding. Like, really cool monster. Also, like monsters like Narcakos and Ataka, I think are really cool Elder Dragons that were creative, I would say. One of the most creative ones. Like Ataka especially, you just see it the first time and it's like, okay, a giant praying mantis, that's your final Elder Dragon for the end game, really? That's it? And then all of a sudden, she's summoning a giant mech. As big as a castle that's just gonna stomp you and everything, and you're like, okay, now I get why you're an Elder Dragon. So like, and Narcakos, we think at first a two-headed dragon on the ground, you know, like kind of swimming through bones, you know, the bone place is at, and you find out later that it's a kraken that uses, and that's what I find really cool. It uses different skulls from monsters for his tentacles to attack, like Barhidios, I think, like Gycris, Urgan, and who did I forget? I think there was one else, but I forgot who, but I think that's just a creative thing. And again, monsters like these guys, who were usually nobody cares about, were made really cool. The only thing I didn't like, that's really the only thing I didn't like about this game, is the fact that for one, if you want to have these guys mastering armor, you have to play the high rank versions of their fights from level 1 to level 10 all through. And you usually have to do them at least 3 times if you want to have all the armor max, because you get tickets and the max amount you're getting is 2, so I think at least you have to do them 2 times at least, some of them 3, which is kinda annoying. And I think also to unlock Bloodbath Diablos, you have to do each one of them in mastering at least once, which also means you have to do all these guys from here, from level 1 to level 10, then get their mastering version, beat the mastering version once, and then you could fight him. So that took a while and was kind of annoying to do. But besides that, cool game. Again, love the monsters here. You know, monsters like Vorstrax, Astlers. It was also kind of a celebration game, I would say, because they put so many monsters from different games. I mean, from here, Free Ultimate, again, like Icarus, for example, Lao Shanlang from older games. Who else? Blagonga, monsters like that. Turajang, Alatrion, Amatsu, all these different monsters are really cool. But let's jump into number 3, and that is Monster Free Ultimate. Now, I would say I don't have a lot of arguments why it's over the other two, other than it's my first Monster game and I played so much to this. I just love it. It has a special place in my heart because my first Monster Hunter game. Also Kayama and Chacha on this game, so, and they are funny. And you know, here you had your cats, and here, I mean, every game here has now then later cats or a Palamute or Sacred, whatever you're gonna write. But here Kayama and Chacha were like really special. They feel like special partners, really. So that fit really cool. First game like Icarus came out, and also where he's the best because he was on land and underwater, and this is the only game with the underwater mechanic, which I personally never hated. I think the one thing I found annoying is you don't have like a Superman dive, which makes some of the monsters really hard to fight underwater. Like for example, like Icarus does this charging move where he discharges a lot of electricity like in a big surrounding. You have to swim out of the way, and sometimes if you're right now attacking and you can't pull your weapon back in time and swim away, you just get hit, and you don't have a like safe way to dodge like the Superman dive where you don't get hit. And if you don't have a weapon that can block, so if you didn't play Lance or Gun Lance, it's kinda maybe sometimes hard on the water. Like Icarus of Lance is a joke. honestly, because you can counter block everything. I'm using Lance right now to play Monster Free Ultimate. It's so easy. Like Agnactor, Lagiacrus, such a cakewalk. Like with Lance. I would even think Gun Lance would be also easy because you just block, poke, explode, block, poke, explode, so on. But again, cool monsters were introduced like Barhedios, Lagiacrus. I'm gonna mention this guy a lot. I think Devijo the first time also as well. And I encountered monsters like Tsunoke, which is my all-time favorite monster. Nagakuga, also really cool. And even their subspecies were also really cool. And who else? I'm forgetting. I mean, Genmoran. I like Cedios also. Mirales as the last boss, also really cool. So a lot of cool monsters introduced there. I liked the game. I didn't hate the water mechanic. I had Plasioth, but I don't know what a mechanic. And overall, you know, a good game overall. Alatreon also as well introduced into that game, which is also one of my favorite Elder Dragons. So a lot of favorite monsters in this game that got introduced there for me. So, and I played this game by far the most. So yeah. Number 3 spot here. Let's go to the number 2, which is Monster Hunter World Iceborne. So the biggest thing about World, and this is actually funny, because obviously played World first and then Rise. And then I switched later back to World for a bit, and then I just looked at the game and was like, I forgot how beautiful it looks. Like, how the game looks, you know, the world and everything, is really important to me, and I think this game, like these two games here are like outstanding when it comes to this. The first game to have a training mode, so really beginner friendly. Also cool monsters like Gigante, Velkhana, Namiel. I think the Elder Dragons generally they introduced in this game were really cool. Walazak, Sharishvada is the end game boss with different phases, cool. What I also like is that I think this is out of all the Monster Hunter games, I would say the first Monster game where there were monsters where you couldn't just like attack and win, if you know what I mean. So, specifically talking about Behemoth and Alatreon, because you needed a plan for these monsters, I would say. So, for Alatreon, it was a really challenging match, I would say, but I think we caught it the first 3-4 times we tried him. But you have to know which element he starts, so you pick the right elemental weapon, you have to do enough elemental damage, then you have to break the horns so it doesn't switch elements when he uses elemental judgment attack, I don't know what it's called, and so on. And yeah, continue this until you win basically, which doesn't sound, you know, hard, but the elemental checks, I would say, and also you have to break the horns. Like in this game, it's more like, okay, if you want to have his armor weapons, you have to break the horns. But if you want to win, against him, you can just ignore it, attack him, and yeah, until he dies, basically. But in this game, you can't use just any weapon you want. Like for example, if he's on fire mode, you can use fire weapons. Same if he's in ice mode. And that's, I think, really different. Same with Behemoth, where you have to have a little bit more strategy, how you fight him, and how also DPS checks. Like the DPS checks are the, I would say, newest thing in comparison. Fatalis was a really good end fight, like a really good challenging end fight at the end as the last monster, and really rewarding because the armor was just broken. About this also the Arc-Tempered monsters were really well done. I remember Arc-Tempered Negigante, Xeno'jiiva. Like they all failed, like especially Xeno'jiiva, who I would say at first was like the normal Xeno'jiiva was okay, but the Arc-Tempered one was actually difficult and not easy to do, in my opinion. At least for me when I tried them solo and with friends. So And Nergigante as well. Some moves you could not dodge with him. Like, he would die if you knew in an instant. You can't, before you even can just think about putting your weapon away. It's just really challenging, but also well made. Savi Jiva, Sage fights, and Kuftara were really nice. Like, overall, there were a lot of cool things in this game that I like. My least favorite thing about this game is Zora Magdaros, easily, because this guy's just boring. Nothing else to say about that. But overall, that's why it's my second favorite Monster Hunter game, with all the cool things, all the new monsters, the world building, and everything. I think challenge, when it comes to challenges, I think this was the most challenging game I've fought. And I don't mean just like, okay, we have the research graph with extremely high levels. Like, I mean what, like, monsters they introduced to the game challenged. Yes, yeah. But okay, let's go to the number one spot, which is kind of obvious then now here. Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate is my favorite Monster Hunter game. First of all, Goro Magala, second favorite monster for me overall. I just like the concept of him. Like, first of all, the frenzied state they introduced, that was a kind of interesting mechanic that can inflict you, and depending on how much damage you do or in time, you either can't heal and heal less, or you do have more affinity. So I really like that idea, but it also, they didn't just use it as a mechanic you have to fight against, but it also inflicts other monsters, which was really, really nice. So the basic story is Goro Magala, you know, defeat him, but it turns out he's not dead, and he's shedding his skin, becoming Shagu Magala, who is an Elder Dragon. Also really cool. And the frenzied virus, he, you know, spreads out to other monsters, and while you defeated Shagu Magala, which would be like, okay, yay, the game, you know, this world is safe, everything. Now our other monsters still afflicted by the virus, which some of them just simply, I would say, are more aggressive because of it, and die at some point to the virus, but there are monsters who surpassed the virus and became Apex monsters, which leads to Apex Seregios coming, which was also a really cool idea, really cool monsters. And I think the Apex monsters were like Seregios, Rajang, Devijo, Zenogre, Diablos, and Najarala, and Tigrex. I'm also kind of surprised that Rathalos didn't get the Apex version, because when it comes to Rathalos, they usually give them something. Yeah. Also, forgot to mention about Iceborne. Raging Barhidios, I think, was also a really cool thing they did. Like, Raging Barhidios first got introduced in 4 Ultimate actually, but the way these guys, these two games, Barhidios plays is totally different. Like, Barhidios has kind of won here the thing where his parts are starting to glow, and if you attack these spots, he's gonna drop, you know, his slime, which then explodes. But in this part, in this game, or in Generations Ultimate as well, if you hit the part, his body part is going to explode. I think that was a little bit harder, because it was a little bit harder to react in time, because you have to get the distance to the body immediately, whereas in Ward, the slime is first gonna drop, and it's a little bit easier, but his end phase was just really cool in the music they played here. But back to Full Ultimate, you know, the Apex monsters again were really cool. The general monsters they introduced there, again, Seregios for example, Goro Magala, Gogmasius with the Dragonator on his back. Who else? I like the story about the Ace Guild, the Ace Guild, you know, not Ace. Sorry. Like, I like them a lot. Then also, of course, the Research Crash, which was the first game where they were introduced. Also having like Apex monsters like 140 were really difficult. This was the first game where I got introduced to like Kushala, Teost, and Camelios, so also special for me. And then, of course, they introduced 2 new weapons, which are the Charge Blade and the Insect Glaive, which were all 2 cool weapons who are still in every other new game. So if you're a fan of these 2 weapons, thank For Ultimate for this. But yeah, I really like the game. I like the concept of Goro Magala, Tsushagaru, and also Chaos Goro Magala, who's like a Goro Magala who failed to do his metamorphosis to Shago Magala, so he's kind of half-half. Also a really cool idea and concept. And then even monsters like the Emtrios, Kechawacha, Najarala, monsters like that, and their subspecies are really nice. Like if you look at the Sand version of Samtios and the normal version, I like the differences they made. Also Zeta's Queen, like there are a lot of cool monsters I remember in this game that I really like. Even the Najarala subspecies, which uses like his scales and then shoots water to, you know, change the projectile. Like he shoots water on his scales that he puts to the ground, and then they just bounce off to the next scale, and then kind of you have to watch out that you don't get hit like that. That's a really cool idea. Like I like the monsters there. I like the monsters, I like the story, kinda in that sense. And yeah, it has like one of my few favorite monsters. Some new monsters and cool things like Shadala Madur, the biggest Elder Dragon ever, like the giant snake. I also really find cool. So yeah, a lot of cool things about this game. One of the games I played the most. Forgot to mention White Fatalis. The introduction of White, not the first game he introduced, but the way they introduced him, like the cutscene, where there's like a sun eclipse and all of a sudden the dragon comes from there just flying, and I think was really cool. And also the fact that they had all the Fatalis forms like Crimson, Normal, White. Beautiful. Well yeah, this is why I like the game the most. And this is my Monster Hunter ranking. Let me know what you guys think about this order. What are your favorite Monster Hunter games? You can let me know that in the comments. Again, all based on my opinion. Totally subjective here and how I just favorite my games. But yeah, I hope you liked this video. And see you guys in the next one.